is going on, everybody? Welcome to our special Christmas episode edition of the Lob It Up podcast. We are your hosts, Tobias, Chris, and Siavash. Siavash, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm so happy right now. You know, we're in a Christmas holiday all spirit.
Yep.
I see Chris wearing red, and then he lifted his shirt. I saw we're in a different spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's right.
Spider Spirit, bro.
Spider
Like
Spirit.
Christmas.
We're not.
This new Spider-Man movie is basically, it's a new Christmas movie now. So
I'm seeing
It is,
people
just
like
Die Hard.
I'm seeing people online when they're like ranking all the Spider movies of all time. They have No Way Home as the number one already. So, you know,
Yeah.
like I'm
We're not
watching
going to talk about it
I'm watching it
because
today.
spoilers.
Yeah, I'm watching it today, and by the time this is released, I'll have already seen it. But I'm very excited. A couple hours, I'll be in the theater. I'll be watching it on the big screen.
So, did you end up watching What If?
I watched the first episode, and you know what? Like, you guys know I'm not a big cartoon show guy, and I actually I fucked with it though. And I think why I did is because, and this is how I told my buddy who I'm going to see Spider-Man with. He's also in the same boat, doesn't really like cartoons. This is how I kind of pitched it to him. It's like cartoon, but it's a cartoon version of Benedict Cumberbatch playing Doctor Strange. It's a cartoon version of, what's his face, Chris Evans playing Steve Rogers. So it's not like a random.
I don't know if it's Chris Evans because I don't think they couldn't get everybody.
But I mean, in terms of the visuals, and the visuals, I'm like, I remember that scene. Like the first episode is what if Carter became the.
Also, I was about to get cheese with you for a second. If you're gonna be, it's what's his face, and then you're gonna be like Chadwick Boseman. I was like, bro, you gotta put some respect on this.
No. I'm not that far yet. I'm not that far yet. But yeah, I did enjoy that, so I'll probably continue to watch it further from there. But so while Siavash is laying down the law, I'll talk about my Christmas outfit. I don't really have a Christmas sweater. I only have a hockey, ugly Christmas sweater, but I do need a Clippers version of a ugly Christmas sweater. But trying to bring in that Christmas spirit. We're only a couple days away. Like I said, by the time this episode's released, it's Tuesday we record. So by the time the episode's released, it'll probably be Friday, which is Christmas Eve. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Christmas. I'm enjoying the holiday season as it comes. What about you, Chris?
And honestly, I was not even excited for Christmas. Like I said, I was just more pumped for Spider-Man.
For sure. That is your Christmas present.
That was my Christmas present this year. Like the whole internet's been saying, it's a big year for Spider-Man, and Spider-Man fans are eating all year.
I wonder what the cutoff date is for like submissions in for the Oscars and whatnot. I know for the Emmys for music or the Grammys, whatever it is for music, it's like mid-November. So I wonder what it is for Christmas. But needless to say, I think from the reception I've heard so far, No Way Home is going to be, up at the top for greatest movie of the year. But yeah. But moving on from Spider-Man and our Christmas spirit, our Christmas anticipations, we'll get into what the other 30 NBA teams want for Christmas, what they should be asking Santa for Christmas. But before we do that, let's get into the take of the week. Siavash, I know you wanted to start it off, so I'll let you take the floor, my man, and give us your take of the week this week.
This take comes from watching the NBA. This actually happened, what I'm thinking of when I came up with this take, happened actually on Wednesday night or Tuesday night, one of those nights. And I was watching the game, and all I could think about was this. And, I just have to come out right on and say it. LeBron James is on HGH. There's no other way of going about this.
100%. Miami days he was on it.
Not even, bro. The man is 38 years old.
37.
There was a tweet. He's going to be 38 in like 5 days. Come on.
Wow.
The guy was like, there was a tweet that went out yesterday, went viral, and LeBron retweeted it, that he has spent more years playing in the NBA than he's been alive. Or that he has not. So he's like spent more than half of his life playing for the NBA.
Yeah.
And he's now 38, 37 and some change. He's just had an ankle injury And with all that said, he's still in the top 1% of athleticism in the league.
And he's the best player on the Los Angeles Lakers.
He's a top 5 player in the league right now. I think we have a hard time going into. We could even go 10.
Yeah, I'll give him 10.
Just
I'll give 10.
But just even athletically, I don't think you can name more than 10 or 15 guys that are more athletic than him today.
No.
And that comes from the clip I saw where it was against the Mavericks, where he went and blocked his shot and he almost hit his head on top of on the bottom of the backboard. Who can do that in the league today? Like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying, bro. The greatest of all time can be doing that. Don't see. Bro. All I'm saying is I didn't see Jordan doing that.
Relax, bro.
At 38,
I didn't see it.
Mike came back. Mike came back in his 40 to play for the bum ass Wizards and was still putting up buckets. So
barely.
What do you mean barely? What do you mean barely? What do you mean barely?
Barely.
Oh,
all I remember is hearing when he was back for the Wizards, like, yo, this man's washed. He's just here for the money.
Nah, bro.
Now this guy's got to go defend his king. Look at you. You're a loyal.
He's looking out for stats. He's like, no, man. He was averaging 25 and 4. You know, come on, man. Nobody was averaging 25 and 4.
Yeah, actually he was.
He was actually averaging 25 and 4?
Nice. 23, 5, and 6. So, sort of.
Who else played for the Wizards, though?
Rip Hamilton, Kwame Brown.
Young Rip Hamilton. Okay, so moving off your take, I totally agree with you, Steve Ash. I think 100% LeBron's top 10 player in the league right now. It's hard to deny.
He said top 5.
He said let's stretch it to top 10 because top 5 gets top 5 gets a little pushy though, right? Because we're talking Steph, we're talking KD, we're talking Giannis, automatically.
And Jokic.
Thank you. I think I can name a couple other players over Bron. If Luka was playing, he's injured right now. If Luka was playing, I would give it to him.
He's not though.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. If he was playing, I could give it to him. But there's a few other players that could go for that mantle. I'm not saying he's not top 5, but if we're going to list it out, I can't name him top 5 automatically. I can give him top 10 easily. I can give him top 7 easily, but he's in that 5 to 7 range for sure.
That 4 is automatic though.
Yeah. Chris, go ahead. Give us the take of the week this week, my man.
No real big take of the week, but we're gonna say, and after watching multiple Raps game, Yuta has definitely in the offseason been working at
Shut the fuck up. I don't even need to hear. I just heard Yuta. I don't even need to hear the rest of this.
Bro,
let him finish his take.
I've like what I think I've seen like 3-4 games where he's gone up for contested dunks and he's blocked like all of them now. He learned his lesson from Ant. He said never again.
Yeah.
Never again. And he hit the gym. Which is more than I can say for some other players that are getting crunched on.
Yeah. I've like 2 takes of the week. I mean, neither of them are really spicy, and they don't have to be. But well, we all know this. I mean, the Dallas Mavericks are fuck all without Luka Doncic. This team is an absolute tire fire joke. Luka's been injured, off and on injuries. For the past couple of games, and the Mavericks are just absolutely shitting the bed. Not only in terms of the score at the end of the game, but in terms of the actual eye test. Kristaps Porzingis is a number 3. This guy is irrelevant on the court. He cannot be a number 2. He definitely cannot be a number 1 when Luka's out. They need to do something to, again, like I said, they need to make a trade. They need to sign somebody, get some help in there for Luka, so he's not doing it all. And same situation. Over in the East, but a little bit different. The Phoenix Suns the Philadelphia 76ers need to go ahead and make a trade to get someone in there to help Joel Embiid. I mean, it's the same story that I was preaching a couple years ago when it comes to Doc Rivers and the Clippers. The same situation's happening right now. Philly fans, the residents of Philadelphia are starting to realize the coaching style of Doc Rivers and how it's not really flexible, how it doesn't really work in the long term. The game plan is not there for a team to competitively play and win a championship. Ben Simmons has been sitting on the sidelines. December 15th has rolled over. January 15th, the second deadline, is also coming quickly to us. So I think now is the time to make that trade, get Ben Simmons out of there, whether it's CJ coming in, whoever it is, you need to get another option to help Joel Embiid out, because right now they're sitting at the 6th spot in the East, so they have slid down quite a few rankings in the Eastern Conference.
We'll get to that.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay. So speaking of that, I don't know if we mentioned it on the last episode, but this is the Christmas episode of the Lob It Up podcast, and like everyone lines up every year, we see the 30 teams lining up, waiting in line to meet the man in the white beard, Santa Claus, and each team has 1 minute to pitch to Santa Claus, to tell Santa Claus, this is what I want for Christmas. This is what I need for Christmas. It can be something on the court. It can be something in the front office. It can be something to do with the city of the team. It doesn't matter. The floor is, the representative of the team. And for the representatives, there'll be us three. There's 3 divisions in each conference. I've got a team in the West. You two have teams in the East. And then from there, we've gone ahead and we've picked the other divisions up. So where do we want to start? Do we want to start in the West or do we want to start the East? I'm cool with whatever.
Let's go with the East first.
Okay, let's start with the East. And let's start at the top. You know what, Sivash? I'll let you go ahead. You are the Bulls representative, which also means you're the representative for the Bulls division. So take it away. What is the Atlantic division?
It is the Central Division.
The Central Division. What does the Central Division?
I have the Atlantic.
What does the Central Division teams want? Go ahead. Floor is yours.
I'm going to start in a minute. So at the start, I'm going to go with the Bulls. My team, they are at second seed in the East. If we look at what they need from the past few weeks, they need like 2 weeks off so they can get rid of this COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even with our players gone, we still won our last 2 games against the Rockets and the Lakers, with my guy DeMar DeRozan coming through and my guy Kobe White doing his thing last game.
Rookie of the year. Rookie of the year in 2022.
Rookie of the year.
But they do need this COVID thing to go away. If that's the case, and I think it will, with given them time, I think they still need a solid power forward moving forward. Mm-hmm. And I think we got to look into, right now, they're a great regular season team, and I think they should be celebrated. But once it comes to playoffs, they have to deal with the idea of going against somebody like Giannis.
Yeah.
I'm going off to the next team, the Cavs. They're now the 3rd seed. I would say they're the biggest surprise of the season. Nobody thought they were even going to make the playoffs.
Definitely.
If you look at what they need right now.
Wake up.
What was that, brother?
We're good.
Time to wake up.
It's going. If we look at what they need right now, they're a solid team. They're playing great together, but I think they need a solid fourth quarter scorer. If the game slows down, they're not going to be great. Right now, I think they are 26th in fourth quarter scoring. So that's a measurement where they measure how much you score in the fourth quarter, and they're ranked 26 out of 30 teams. And I think they need somebody you can give them a ball, somebody like DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, who are top 10 in fourth quarter scorings, and just go get a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The third team I'm going with is Milwaukee Bucks. They're the 4th seed in the league, and that is kind of surprising.
Dang, you got a really good division.
I do, man. This division's doing pretty good right now. But I will say the Bucks have also been hit with the COVID. Right now, I think they played 8 players last night. I only knew 5 of them.
Yeah.
No Chris Middleton, no Drew Holiday, no Giannis, no Brook Lopez. And Brook Lopez is also injured and probably will be out for the rest of the season. Looking at their team, I think they just need their team back, especially with injuries. I think if they get Brook Lopez, they'll be all right. Outside of that, COVID, everything, I think they're going to be solid in the playoffs. So, not a lot for them. My fourth team is the Pacers. We spoke about them last week. They're kind of looking around. They're trying to get their players out. I think they just need to commit to something. Either trade a piece and just try to keep winning, or just do a full-on rebuild.
Bro, Raptors fans are so horny for Miles Turner. It's so random.
No, it's just because we need, bro. It's not like we'll get to that after.
But they have to commit. These guys were the 4th seed for like 4 straight years, over like past 5 years, and they're just not a solid team. Their best player over the last 20 years was probably Paul George, or even Jermaine O'Neal. But they haven't
Reggie
had
Miller.
lottery. Yeah, but he was like old.
Yeah, late. Yeah.
But in the past 10, 15 years, I don't think they've had a number 1 pick in a long, long time. And the last team is the Pistons. So, finally took a dip. This division was pretty good until then.
Yeah.
But With the Pistons, right now they're in rebuild mode. They're just trying to develop their players. I think one thing that they would want on their Christmas list is that Cade to be who he's expected to be. The biggest fear with Cade right now is that he's not a number one guy. There's a lot of talk going on. And to be fair, we don't have a big sample size. This might be a hot take. But if he doesn't become an all-star, if he doesn't become a number one guy, the Pistons, the rebuild is probably going to go to a flop.
Mm-hmm.
That ends my 4-minute division run.
So now we'll get into kind of not even a rebuttal, just a discussion period. Us three will just kind of talk about what the division looks like and any specific teams that we're clinging on to. One thing, like, I'll get into another one of your teams, but one thing with the Pistons that I'm actually starting to wonder, because I haven't watched a lot of Pistons games, but I've watched a few. I'm wondering if Cade is a point guard. He's tall. He plays at 6'7", I think, maybe 6'8", and he's always been a point guard. I wonder if he's a 2. I watch him and he moves more like a 2. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see him as that traditional point guard. I guess you don't have to be nowadays, but I don't see him very static at the 1. I see him as a 2. I don't know if that's just me, and I think it's similar to another guy, different position. They've tried to force Anthony Davis throughout his whole career to be a number 5. I'm not a number 5. I don't want to play the number 5. I don't want to be in the paint. He likes being the 4. I wonder if maybe Cade is a 2 and people are trying to put him in as a 1. I don't know.
So when there was I think it was Dave Bing this past week that said he's going to be an all-star, but he's not the guy. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about the guy, who's a player who's an all-star and he's not the guy? The first thing that I can think of is like a Klay Thompson or somebody basically that you plug into a system and they can be the guy, put up great numbers, but they can play not being the guy and put up great numbers. So with that said, yeah, he might be a 2 who can move the ball, still play like him, but he might need a scoring guard next to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Any thoughts, Chris, on the division that CS just laid down?
No, I think everything is great with what C says. Like, I agree wholeheartedly. Definitely, the biggest problem with the Bulls this year has just been this whole COVID thing, just health-wise, which sucks because it's like, they were getting into a good run and then it's like, oh, hey, by the way, half your team's gone.
Yeah.
And for a lot of these teams in the league, we're seeing, like, who are these 2K generated players? Like,
it's the white guy with the headband, the white bald guy with the headband. Like, that guy's not in the league.
The only thing that is kind of nice, though, and I do like about this whole COVID thing, it is giving like a chance for some of these, like, maybe like lesser known ballers or unknown ballers to like come into the league, and like the league's allowing them to sign like a 10-day. It's just like, okay, while your player's away on COVID, you can sign a 10-day. Here's a new player so you guys can keep like kind of playing, and maybe that person might get a little bit like, hey, here's some like screen time.
I think what the NBA is doing is they're embracing the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, and they're just creating all these different variants in the NBA. You have 87 different Alex Caruso variants right now in the NBA.
Yeah, like there's this short guy that signed with the Lakers. His name is Isaiah Thomas. Like, he's a weird Isaiah Thomas variant. I don't know who he is.
I'm pumped to be back. One more piece on your division. I want to go back to the Cavs. The Cavs are doing really well. They're 19-12 right now, like you mentioned, third in the conference. It's interesting in a world where a lot of teams are playing small ball, or like the Raptors, they're playing like 6-9 ball across the board. Very like versatile forwards are all playing at once. The Cavaliers have the tallest lineup in the NBA. They've got Lauri Markkanen, who's like 7'1", playing at the 3. And while I think that's a benefit to them in certain situations, I also wonder about foot speed. And that goes back to your point. You need that guy. You need that killer on the floor, and they don't have that guy. I think that guy for them, the best version of that guy for them on their team is Colin Sexton, and he's injured right now.
Or Darius Garland. I think Darius Garland
is he a killer though? You know what I mean?
I think he is.
Yeah,
I think he is. And there was times I watched the Cavs, and even when Colin Sexton was on there, and I saw the game, and I would be like, "Why is Colin Sexton holding the ball?" And
Okay.
no disrespect to him, but there was times
Yeah.
where I'm like, Darius Garland performs way better in that position.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
I just think, and I think he's a young
Yeah.
young and upcoming
For sure.
player right now.
For sure.
You will see that, I think, more from him as the season goes on.
Totally. All right, Chris, you have the Atlantic.
I do.
Now, do you want to go ahead and get started on the Atlantic? And if you want, you can take whatever order you want. But, Sivash just laid down the law with 3 of the top 4 picks in the East. But you got that number 1 seed in the East.
I got the number 1 seed with so we're gonna start off with the Brooklyn Nets. And again, much like the rest of the league, I think when the Brooklyn Nets step up to the fat man in red, they're gonna be asking, "Hey, can we just get some healthy players, bro?" Because we see that the Brooklyn Nets did allow Kyrie Irving to come back, and then kind of off topic with that, but it kind of maybe shows that, hey, maybe the league is not so much about the health of the players, but
the bottom dollar always, Chris.
It's always the bottom dollar.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It's that shmoney. When the shmoney talks, we're gonna bend some rules. But then again, no surprise, Kyrie didn't even lace up his shoes, and boom, COVID protocol too for this guy.
Yeah.
So that's what the Brooklyn Nets need. Moving on to the 76ers. Again, I think they're going to be asking for a trade just because they got to get Ben Simmons shipped out, and they got to get something going. And like you were saying, Embiid needs some help down there. The guy can't be doing it all by himself. So just a number 2 player. Moving on to Boston. I'm going to say just for Boston, it's a tough one for Boston because Boston is good. Boston, I feel, has a good mix of young and veteran players, but it's just they're in that wavy kind of thing. It's like they're playing really well or they're just not. There's no in between. So I think it's just what they're going to be asking Santa for is just let's get good solid play from here on out, and that's it. Just figure it out type of thing. And then moving on to our boys, I guess my boys.
Yeah, I was going to say, watch the R.
Is the Toronto Raptors. Something that they've needed for a long, long, long time is a solid center.
Aaron Baines didn't do it for you? Or?
Solid center. Solid. I don't know. You'd think this gotta be rough and tough being he's Australian, right?
Yes.
Growing up in Australia, everything tries to kill you. It's crazy. So you think this guy could handle a little pressure in the league, but nope.
You didn't see Ben Simmons not being able to handle pressure?
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Australian.
That's what I'm saying. You had Ben Simmons in there just killing it, and then you got this guy just. But yeah, we definitely need a solid center. That's like you pointed out, so many Raptors fans are just super horny for Miles Turner just because he is becoming available, and it's just we haven't had a good center in so long. And then following up with my last team is the New York Knicks. Now I think what the Knicks need to ask for is just a little bit of effort in defense, just because when it comes to them, you can't have teams constantly coming in and players having career highs on the Knicks. The Knicks are a good, solid team. And why are opposing teams coming in beating you? And it's oh, so-and-so just dropped a career high. Oh, so-and-so just did this, and just shooting the lights out on you guys,
I think.
So just
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so just maybe some effort in defense that will go a long way for the Knicks, for sure.
I think the Knicks have played everybody more than any other team in the NBA. Because I remember when we did our standing predictions, I can't remember where I had the Knicks, maybe Seabass, you can pull it up, but I remember saying I don't think that this Knicks team is the Knicks team that was last year. I believed even in the playoffs that Julius Randle had a fluke season because when it came to the playoffs, didn't show up. He was a ghost. But then at some point, the Knicks were top 4 in the East. And I remember on the podcast, I rescinded. I made my apology. I was like,
you did?
You know what? Maybe the Knicks are for real. The Knicks are 12th right now in the East. They're sitting there with a 13-17 record. So it's they're, talk about the Boston Celtics playing with people's emotions. The Knicks, I think, even worse are playing with teams' emotion or with fans and other players' emotions because they can't stay in one spot for long. They're jumping back and forth.
Ping pong era was so short lived.
Yeah.
Very short.
I think, right as the Bulls lost that game to them by 1 point and they were screaming bing bong everywhere, I think that's where the downfall started.
Yeah.
I just
that
I
karma.
just enjoy it watching them. Just as right after that, we went up and they went down. It's just beautiful. It's just perfection.
Now, Chris, you were talking about the Celtics in your division, and I wonder, because where did the Celtics finish last season? They were a play-in team, no?
Yeah.
So now they're also sitting in that play-in team spot.
Mhm.
At what point do we think, now Brad Stevens, who's running the front office, at what point do we think the Celtics are going to make a change? Like, of course, you talked about their, they got a good mix of young players in their prime, and players a bit older, like someone like Al Horford. At what point did the Celtics say, this isn't working, we need to do something else? At what point do you think? Do you think that's going to happen this season, or they're going to wait till the off season, depending on the status of the team? What do you think?
I think it's definitely going to be like an off-season thing because, like, looking at them, like Boston should be like a conference like finals team, and or even an NBA finals team based on like if you look on paper based on their star power and the depth that that team has, like they should be doing well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is just this hump for some reason that they cannot get over. So maybe is it like a three times is like the charm type of thing?
Yeah.
Like, do they ride out the season, see where it ends, and then they give it one more season? And if things don't change, then it's like, then we seriously look to switch things up or blow it up.
And that's and in my view, and I really like him as a player, but in my view, if they're gonna do something big, they're not gonna get rid of Tatum. They're gonna get rid of Jaylen Brown, which is unfortunate because I think Jaylen Brown is one of the premier like two-way wing players in the league. But yeah. Sivash, do you have any thoughts on what Chris broke down for his division?
I liked it. There was definitely things. So I told Tobias this before we started recording. I kind of wrote down my thoughts on like some of the other teams as well. But like, it's just interesting to see like different perspective because my thoughts for the Raptors was that they probably need another young piece to pair with Scottie moving forward. But Chris's was kind of more in the now moment.
But
that they need a center.
Yeah, well, because if you look though at like age-wise, like Scottie's young, Van Fleet's pretty young, OG's still really young, so they still do have like a good young core. But if they just bring in a good solid center to pair with those like young guys, I can vibe well, match well with them,
grow with them. Yeah.
They're still, I would say, if they're not looking to trade away Pascal, I think they're just not looking at the right way because Pascal is still a young guy. I do agree with that. But I do have
what's young?
I have
like what's that version? Because he's
like
27,
27, 28.
Yeah. So
why do you know these years? Every time we talk about a player,
I know he's like really good.
I like that. But it's not weird, sorry. But I just think like I have a gripe with players who are power forwards who cannot either play the center or play small ball. Like somebody like Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, Pascal. These are guys that I think it just doesn't work the best fit, and they have to be so exceptionally good that you just put other pieces around them. And I think Scottie is right now the player that you're looking at and you're like, this is the future. I would say again, I'm not a Raptors fan, but I think from my perspective, I think they should be looking into trading Pascal and trying to find another young piece to put next to him. Again, OG is young, Fred VanVleet's young. I do agree with that. I just think holding on to Pascal is maybe holding back Scottie.
And I agree because like as Raptors fans talk, like we do understand that like as things progress, something has to change, and unfortunately, it probably is going to end up being Siakam that we do part ways with out of all of those players.
I think best case scenario was, and I coming into the season, I thought he was a fine player, nothing superstar wise, but I thought the best deal was getting Precious Achiuwa from the Miami Heat. Unfortunately, he hasn't played so well this season, but he fits that mold. He's a small ball center that can play the four. He's young enough. He's probably 24, 25. Played great for his international team. Was unreal against the Americans. He just hasn't found it. He still could find it. He just hasn't found it yet. But he totally fits that mold, in my opinion. One more thing. Okay, I want to say one more thing just before we move on to the division. the 76ers. Daryl Morey has come out and said, for Ben Simmons, we want a top 25 player. You mentioned in your Santa wish list for Philadelphia, making that trade, getting Ben Simmons, getting a secondary option. Do you think they're going to get a top 25 player for Ben Simmons?
I think so.
Yeah.
They're going to have to, because I don't think they're going to settle for anything less.
Fair enough.
So they essentially need to.
Okay. All right, moving on.
Go
ahead.
Just to add to that, if I had to be a betting man, I think they would trade him to Sacramento for Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, and Marvin Bagley III, and some picks.
That whole thing? Wow.
Listen, Sacramento, we're going to get Sacramento.
Sure. But if they can pull that, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, the third division in the East. I will start it off with the Heat. The Miami Heat have been a solid team. They're sitting at the 5th seed right now, but lately they've been a little COVID and injury riddled. And the most notable injury they have is Bam Adebayo. He had to go for a thumb surgery or a thumb procedure. So the Miami Heat would be asking for a healthy and a hungry Bam. You know, this is a guy that we talked about in our preseason. What?
That sounds like something my grandma would pray for.
No. Just because you're saying healthy and hungry Bam, in my head, I'm just like, yum, 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 yum. Like, I had to fight the urge to just not say that for some reason. But anyways, continue.
But yeah, this is a guy that in our preseason episodes, we had talked about, I don't know if it was all of us, but I remember mentioning it, Defensive Player of the Year. Bam being a Defensive Player of the Year. He was unreal in the bubble. He was solid last year. I think that, you know, him coming back makes them a very, very competitive team in the East, obviously with the addition of Kyle Lowry there as well. They're a very, very scary team in the East, and right now they're kind of sitting at that, you know, middle 5 spot. So a healthy and hungry Bam. Moving down to the Wizards. Honestly, I think it's a Bradley Beal trade package. With the Wizards, similar to a team like the Indiana Pacers, similar to a team like the Orlando Magic in the early 2010s, similar like a team over in the West, the Portland Trailblazers, the Wizards have kind of just, they've been here. You know what I mean? They've been at the 4th seed, at the 5th seed, at the 6th seed. They've never gotten up to that upper echelon of the conference, and very rarely do those teams win. Very rarely do you see those teams have success, and at some point you got to think about blowing it up and, you know, starting fresh. Now they did that with John Wall, then turned into Russell Westbrook, then they moved that into smaller pieces, and I think it's just time that they move on from Bradley Beal. They move on from that era while he still has high trade value. They can get some pieces back and, you know, reboot and restart their franchise similar to the Orlando Magic. The next team, the Charlotte Hornets. I think LaMelo Ball has shown himself to be a very, you know, very competitive asset in the Eastern Conference. I think we were talking about another point guard in the East, Cade Cunningham. I think LaMelo Ball is that number one guy. He's shown he can be that number one guy on a team, still very early into his career, but I think getting a solid number 2 option, not Kelly Oubre Jr., not Terry Rozier, but a solid number 2 option, getting him in there to help LaMelo Ball and to help their franchise grow and, you know, be a more competitive team in the East would be solid. Going over to the Atlanta Hawks, more so off the court, but they need to get into a partnership with the Magic City Club, the famous strip club that Lou Will goes to for just the wings. He doesn't go there for anything else. Just the wings. I think they need to strike a deal with opposing teams, and they need to have some sort of, you know, special wing night every single time, you know, a competitive team. Doesn't have to be the Pistons, but if it's a team like the Bulls, if the Bulls are coming into Atlanta, they need to set up a deal for Magic City to give the Bulls team, organization, players, coaches, all this. They need to give them free wings, drinks all night. That way they don't need to worry about any competitive teams the next day. And the 5th and final team in the East for my division is the Orlando Magic. Can't even see. Oh, I couldn't even see what I read. They have a very young team. Obviously, they got a lot of young guards there. They're rebuilding. They did what the Pacers did, and what I think a couple other teams in the league should be doing as well. They blew it up. They got rid of Vucevic. They got rid of Aaron Gordon and all these guys. They need to get season passes to Disneyland because they're really not going to be doing anything for the next couple of years. They got a young team as it is, so let the kids have some fun. Let the kids roam the streets in Disneyland, and just play basketball on the side. So that is my my division breakdown. What do you guys think?
I want to get started with your Atlanta Hawks take.
Yeah.
Lemon pepper all day?
Yeah, of course. Free lemon pepper wings for all opposing teams entering Atlanta.
And if
Jack Harlow's going to be there.
That's true. That's true.
But if you get that, if you've ever watched Atlanta, you got to get that mythical wet lemon pepper, that exclusive.
Wow.
Haven't seen the show yet, so I'm just going to not say anything.
You're a Childish Gambino fan,
sick
right?
Reference.
Great show, Atlanta.
You watch Donald Glover's in that, right?
Yeah.
And you're a big Childish Gambino fan, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Great things about the show. In case of what you said, the Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's still a great landing spot for Miles Turner.
Okay.
I would say they have a great case. I think what you were saying about number 2, I do think they do need that. They probably need a better ball handler, a second ball handler next to LaMelo, but at the same time, Terry Rozier has been trying to do that. Mm-hmm. So I just think they just need probably a better center than who's their center right now, Mason Plumlee.
Yeah, one of the Plumlee guys. Yeah.
Plumlee brothers.
Yeah.
No, that was pretty straightforward.
Chris, your thoughts on the division? Any team that sticks out or anything that I've said sticks out?
No, nothing crazy sticks out. Like, agree with pretty much everything you said, and I think ready to move on to that next division.
Alrighty, sounds good. So let's do that. Let's go over to the Western Conference. Steve Ash, we'll let you start again in the West. Give us the breakdown now.
I believe I have the Northeast division.
I believe
which includes the Utah Jazz, the Denver Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Trailblazers, and OKC.
Yes.
Gonna get started right away with the Jazz. I think they need a game plan for playoffs. If they don't have one, they need one real bad. I think their team has been better probably than last season. They haven't been outperforming, but I think they have these different pieces that can plug into different systems now. Somebody like Rudy Gay, I think he's a good versatile big. He plays the small forward and power forward, but I think he can play the 5. And if the other team decides to go small ball.
Okay.
So if you remember back to the Clippers, when they played them, their center was who? Batum or Markieff Morris?
Sure, yeah.
Or Marcus Morris?
Yeah.
So if you put a guy like Rudy Gay in that position,
okay,
I think he plays pretty good. So I think they need a plan for playoffs because they're going to be whatever the first, second, third seed, but they have to realize, look ahead and see what they can do. Moving forward to the next in the Nuggets, they need to find the option in the settings to turn off the injuries. Because this simulation is not going well for them, man. Like, this injuries, my guy Jokic, he's underrated right now.
I was going to say, yeah.
I saw a clip of my guy, Zach Lowe, going off on Richard Jefferson and Kendrick Perkins about how Nikola Jokic's name is not coming up in the conversation. This guy should be in the MVP conversation, similar to the way Steph Curry was last season.
Yep.
His team's not performing, but this guy's performing for his life. And he's the only reason that they're winning. To put it the way they put it on TV, as an example, when he's on the court, with the off and on numbers, when he's on the court, they're in 96 Bulls. When he's off the court, he's the 2011 Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, I saw something like that. Like when he was on the court, like they're like plus 15 point something. When he's off the court, they're like minus 14 something.
Yeah, get that man some help.
Crazy.
My next team is the Timberwolves. They need D'Lo to step up. He needs to be resurrected from 2018, 2019. I think it was 2019, the year he was an all-star. This team is the 8th seed right now. I'm not going to bring up Patrick Beverley. He's got nothing to do with this. But right now, one thing that I noticed about them, and they've been doing pretty good, but they are 27th, right below the Cavs in fourth quarter scoring. When everything slows down, their guy, Ant, is doing pretty good, but they need a secondary scorer next to him who can just go get a bucket. And D'Lo was that guy a few years ago, but he needs to be resurrected right now. The next team is the Trailblazers. I just put in my notes. I just put Ben Simmons question mark. I just think they need somebody. They need a roster revamp. Something's got to change. If it is Ben Simmons, I think that would be a great kind of restart for their team to kind of, just get that little restart with Dame. Maybe just reset the time because he's going to get Ben now. They're going to have 2 years to just see what it is. And then afterwards, if he wants to ask for a trade, he could. But outside of that, the roster is not that strong, I would say. Yusuf Nurkic, I don't trust. Other than that, Norman Powell, I think they're probably lost in that trade when they traded Norman Powell and they traded for Norman Powell and they traded away Gary Trent Jr. But outside of that, I think, they just need a guy like Ben Simmons. And the OKC on their Christmas list, I think there should be a big text that says, stop winning games. I don't know why they're trying to win their games. SGA is a great player, I would say, but
I get
they
it.
just need
Tough
to
name
stop.
to pronounce. I struggle with that.
You do it.
I can't.
Exactly.
Shea
That's all
Gilgeous
good.
Alexander. Shea Gilgeous Alexander.
It's too much. It's a
It's
mouthful.
actually Shy. Get it right.
Shea. I'll put 20 on it.
One thing he ain't shy about doing, though, is putting up those game-winning shots.
That's facts.
Oh,
Balling out.
against the Clippers.
Balling out. Against a couple teams. He's been unreal this season.
He has, and I think they just gotta kind of relax with it. I think they either gotta stop winning games, or this is what I heard: they're a sneaky option for Sabonis. They had him back in 2017, and they traded him in the package for Paul George next to Victor Oladipo. They have liked him in the past. He's still a young player, Sabonis. So if you bring him in, you still got Shea. You still got all these other players. Lou Dort is playing pretty well. You just get these players next to each other. I think they got a solid team moving forward. And that's all for my division. Thoughts?
That's interesting. I'll start it with the Thunder. That's interesting. I haven't heard the Sabonis thing, but that's obviously irrelevant for this season. But that makes it a really interesting trio for next year, having Shea, Lou Dort, and Sabonis. Again, doesn't make them a top echelon team in the West, but definitely I would say makes them a competitive team in the West to at least make a play-in tournament. Like I would like that, but the only problem is OKC loves their picks. So unless they're making a trade for Sabonis and they're getting a pick from 2035, they're not doing the trade because they got about 85 picks for this year and next year. So, the pick is a deal breaker for them.
So I think in that case, they would be giving up a lot of the picks from 2025.
Yeah.
But I think they would probably play it safe and not give up theirs in case they want to blow it up again
Sure.
and hit a reset.
For sure.
But they do have a lot of picks and they should probably use it at some point.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that stands out to me from your Santa wish list, again, is the Trailblazers. I think right now, as I talked about with the Wizards, they're just kind of at that plateau. They're not doing anything to break open the barrier and to make them one of the top teams in the West, top teams in the league. So they do need to make a trade, and I think if it's a CJ for Ben swap, or depending on what you're giving up, if you're Portland, getting Ben Simmons is a very, very interesting theory for the Portland Trailblazers. It allows Dame to come off the ball if he wants to sometimes and just be a shooter. It makes their defense incredibly, 10 times better, because they're a brutal defensive team right now. They went out and got Larry Nance Jr. and that's irrelevant for their defense. But I think if
Can
they
you do that incredibly one more time?
What?
Say that incredibly the same way one more time.
I don't know how I said
No, it wasn't the same enthusiasm, man.
I can't remember how I said it. Sometimes I just black out when I'm talking. I'm like Michael Scott. I just hope I find what I'm trying to say along.
Guy.
Nice.
But yeah, that's my thoughts on what your wish list is. What about you, Chris? What do you think about Sebash's Western Conference wish list?
No, I agree with him. Yeah, OKC definitely gonna stop winning games, and just move it forward. The one thing though, when I'm watching Shy just putting up those shots, it's like they are such just schoolyard shots. And
They are weird. He's got a weird
all
form.
going. They're all just going in.
He
It's
pushes
crazy.
it a lot. I find he pushes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
It's
offense, but
weird.
like a woman shot.
No,
Let's
okay.
just say.
How you gonna offend the guy who's a millionaire? Like, come on, bro.
No, hey, bro, he's doing better than I
I
am.
know.
So,
It's
but
true. And then, no, I agree too. D'Lo definitely does need to step it up. Maybe that ice in his veins has kind of started to thaw out a little bit. So maybe
it's like
just,
slush. It's slush right
I
now.
know,
Slush in
that
his
weird
veins.
Yeah.
slush.
It's that brown slush that you see on the side of the road in like the middle of January. It's like this is why
That's
I hate
what
winter.
Minnesota looks like, anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Minnesota's cold, man. Maybe have them just do some training outside, get that slush forming back in the ice, you know? But yeah, no, definitely agree with all these takes there.
The thing I will say about the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm on Clippers Twitter because I'm a Clippers fan. It just happens. But I've seen a lot of Minnesota Timberwolves Twitter, and it's nice for me and try to make a comparable, for your own teams. There's a lot of comparables I can make definitely in the NHL, but it's one of those things where when they play on your team, you love them. When they don't play on your team, unless you love them like Pat Bev, you hate them. And it's nice to see Pat Bev being embraced by the Minnesota Timberwolves fans. He's always there hyping the team up. Sorry, hyping the team up before the game, at the end of the game. Yeah. Yeah, it's just nice to see like him be embraced by the fans in Minnesota.
You okay though, Tobes? Choking up, I get it.
No, it's like
you get emotional. You're
No,
choking
the
up.
emotions are just building up.
It's
You just
sad,
gotta,
bro.
you just gotta let him go.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Bro. It's sad. I got my jersey.
You just want to take a moment and thank Pat Bev for being trash on another team.
Shut up.
Oh my.
Shut up.
I'm
Never missed the
kidding.
playoffs.
It's been good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chris, we'll move on to your division in the West. This is your team. Your team is on. Your secondary team is on this list.
It's true. I have the Southwest. So we'll open up with the Memphis Grizzlies. I think something that they're going to be looking for, which, I mean, they're already getting, so fitting. It's Christmas this week. They're getting that this week, but it was for definitely a healthy job to just have him back. But they are getting that this week. But that's not to say, though, that the Memphis Grizzlies haven't been playing well. Much like that Clippers thing that you point out last week, it's just kind of it's been a who's up next kind of thing for the Grizzlies, and a lot of other players have stepped up in his absence. So as long as they can keep that intensity going, match that back up with a healthy jaw, I think they're going to be good. Second team, I need them to do much better because I really do not want to pay you any fucking money. Is the Dallas Mavericks. I think they need a couple of things. They definitely need like a trade. Maybe, it's time to move away from Porzingis, get him kind of out of there, get somebody else in who can help Luka. And then also maybe tell Luka, hey, we're going to put down the hookah this offseason and maybe pick up some dumbbells, pick up a salad, and just, maybe have him getting like a little healthier, lower those like LBs a little bit, and hopefully that improves his game. Moving on, we have the San Antonio Spurs. Now the Spurs are in like kind of like a weird thing, right? They're kind of stuck in like mediocrity right now because it's like they have some good young players, but it's just I don't really know what's going on with them. So it's like I feel like they either need to just got to swing for the fences, try and acquire like a big name player just to help them make that push to be better, or just maybe just blow up the whole thing. And then we've got Houston. Again, Houston's just kind of in like a weird little thing right now. They've got some good young talent as well, but I think it's just patience. We're just going to ask that. We're just going to ask the fans to give Houston just some patience while they just kind of figure things out for the next little bit. And for New Orleans, it is definitely a healthy and lighter Zion Williams, because bro, you can't be 330 pounds doing what you're doing. Like
6'6".
Bro, exactly. 6'6", 330 pounds. This is why you have that pressure fracture in like your foot or whatever is never gonna fucking heal, because there's so much weight. You're constantly walking. It's always gonna aggravate it, and you're gonna try and be dumb athletic at this heavy ass weight. No, bro. You know what? Sign this man up for Jenny Craig. Get him to lose some pounds, and we'll revisit that. It's insane.
So it sounds like a lot of the recommendations that you're making for these teams is conditioning in their players. You talked about Luka and
Essentially.
you talked about Zion. Who are
Yeah.
two
This
guys that
division
can
has
be.
good food.
Yeah, for
This
sure. No,
division just has good food all over.
It's true. It's true. It's the good food, and maybe it's time. I think. Did you mention it? His grandma's living with him, and you know how grandmas be.
no, I didn't
Just
know that.
yeah. I saw somebody. I hear somebody said that maybe his grandmother was living with him, and then always cooking for him. And you know how
Yeah,
grandmas be.
definitely.
Oh, you could literally be eating a meal, and they'll be like, "Oh, you hungry?" and fix you another plate. So this is probably why he is 330 pounds.
Yeah, you're a growing boy. It's like no, grandma. I need to play in
No,
the
grandma.
NBA. I've grown enough.
Growing in all the wrong places.
I'm grown.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
stop.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I'm definitely on board for the getting Kristaps Porzingis out of there. I've been very loud in my opinion on KP and Bubble Boy, as some people call him. So no, I guess that's Anthony Davis. My bad. Playoff
Come
P
on.
is Kristaps Porzingis in my mind now, but I definitely think he's a third option on a championship team. He's definitely not a second option, and right now with Luka out, he's definitely not a number one option.
No.
So getting someone in there for Luka is definitely important.
I forgot what you said for the Spurs.
Spurs just how they're kind of just stuck in mediocrity right now.
Yeah.
And it's like they either need to just blow things up or just make like a big push to just try to acquire somebody big and just go for it. It's full throttle.
No, I do agree with that. The Spurs, there's no piece that I look at and I'm like, this is a good piece to build on for the future.
Mhm.
DeJounte Murray is probably the closest piece for that, but even him, it's just, you don't know, right? He's that guy who's
Exactly.
the underrated guard in the East, or sorry, in the West, similar to somebody like Mike Conley was over 10 years
Yeah.
ago. So
Yeah, and they're seeing a lot
they
of
don't really have a piece.
they're seeing a lot of success in a guy like Jakob Poeltl as well, who's not like he's very average. Like he's good on that San Antonio team, but like that's their like sort of number two guy. They do have a lot of young guys, Devin Vassell, Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson is there as well. But I think maybe, in my opinion, something that San Antonio would be asking Santa for would be, I think it's like 15 more wins for Greg Popovich, and this guy's the leading in most wins in NBA history. So,
Well, imagine he doesn't get it this season.
and I'm pretty sure this is his last season too.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
has
sure
been
he said
alluding
that.
to it for a long time.
Yeah. No, I like the breakdown though. I like the breakdown, Tom. All right, so the final division in the West, the final division in the league, is the division I like to call the California division, plus the Phoenix Suns. And that's where we'll start. We'll start with the Phoenix Suns at the top of the West right now. The Phoenix Suns have been a healthy and competitive team all year, and what I would be asking for if I was a Phoenix Suns is their first NBA championship. Chris Paul's first NBA championship. They got fairly close last year, obviously to the NBA Finals. I thought it was going to be a fluke. They've come back. They've doubled back again this year, showing they're a competitive team in the West, in the league. And I think that's what they'd be asking for this year. They basically got everything else covered. They got good wing players, a solid point guard, shooting guard, and a big. Moving down the next spot to the Warriors, who's just in second place in the West. The Warriors have had a few injuries so far this season. Klay Thompson and James Wiseman have been out all season, but they're getting those two guys back very soon. I think Klay is coming back in January. And what the Warriors are asking for is Steph's third MVP, which he looks like he's on pace right now, him and KD, and like you mentioned, Jokic. They're battling it out right now, all in the Western Conference. But also the fourth chip in the Warriors dynasty, giving Steph 4, giving Steph 3 MVPs, and then you're really starting to have a conversation, like we mentioned before, where is the ranking of Steph Curry in all-time greats in the NBA, but just general health. Sliding down a couple spots, we'll go to the Los Angeles Clippers, my squad. We talked about this last week. Chris, you mentioned it earlier. Just continued consistent play from role players. Paul George made his return last night on Monday night. They did lose the game, but one thing I noticed was Those role players weren't as consistent as they were when Paul George was off. I think that's just them trying to figure out the touches again, who gets the ball, as a secondary option to Paul George. And of course, we just want Kawhi to come back, healthy and hungry for the playoffs, so they can compete. Sliding down one more spot, the Lakers. The Lakers have been another one of those teams that have been very inconsistent. I've been, very loud about my opinions on Anthony Davis, Bubble Boy, Street Clothes, whatever you want to call him. So what the Lakers are asking for, similar to the Wizard of Oz, the story of Wizard of Oz, there was a lion that asked for courage. They're asking for courage for Anthony Davis to figure out his desire to go into the paint. AD does not like being in the paint. He likes being in the mids and stretching it out behind the arc, and they want to put him at the 5. He doesn't like crashing and grabbing boards, so that's what the Lakers are asking for. They're asking for AD's courage to come back. And then the Sacramento Kings. Wow, we've talked a lot about the Sacramento Kings in the past couple weeks. They're a tire fire. They don't know what's going on. And for Christmas, the Sacramento Kings, more so the players really than the management or the city of Sacramento, the team, the coaches, the players are asking for a new city and a new owner. They want to get out of Sacramento. They want to get out of the ownership that's there right now. I think if they can move to a new city or get a new owner, I think that changes the organization completely. Marvin Bagley doesn't even want to be there because he doesn't like Sacramento. He doesn't like the ownership. I think if they get a new owner, if they move to Seattle, whatever it is, I think they can be a fine team. So if I'm Sacramento, I'm asking for a new switch up in the city and organization of Sacramento. And that's my break.
I like it. I think for my notes for Sacramento, I think I wrote they need a miracle. But other than that, we do have good notes, similar notes. For the Warriors, I think they're going to be really interesting with those guys coming back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about if they're going to trade for somebody like Sabonis, which I think would be really interesting because he can shoot, he can pass the ball, and he can post up and be able to facilitate out of the post as well. At the same time, I think they're going to wait and chill out until they see what James Wiseman and Clay look with this team. I mean, they're already 25-6, which is incredible for them because I don't think anybody had them going this well at the start of the season.
100% no.
Well, it's interesting with the Warriors too because I remember hearing a lot about how the Warriors, they had one toe in and one toe out, where it was like they're half all in because they still have guys like Steph, Clay, Draymond, and they're not willing to trade any 3 of those guys. But then they got guys like they went ahead and drafted, James Wiseman, they kept him. Kuminga, they kept him. Moses Moody, they kept him. They got a young guy, he's fairly young, Jordan Poole. And so a lot of the conversation I heard in the offseason about the Warriors was they got to pick a lane. They got to pick, they're either going to be competitive or they're going to be rebuilding. What's it going to be? And you don't want to rebuild when Steph's still obviously in prime Steph form. So they found a way to make it work. They've had their young guys on the bench for the most part. Like Kuminga hasn't really played a lot. Moses Moody hasn't really played a lot. But I think that they've shown, success in the way that they're doing it. And now, like you mentioned, they have very valuable trade pieces. We're talking like multiple top 10 picks that they can move if they desire a Sabonis, if they desire another piece, or they can, keep it and kind of go with the hybrid for the rest of the, next couple seasons.
Well, I think one thing they are trying to do is just be able to merge these 2 eras together
100%.
as easy as possible. I think that's the one main reason they won't go for that trade is because they want to be able to keep guys like Kuminga, Moody, and James Wiseman on the team moving forward. So maybe in 5 years, I think Steph's going to have a long career. He hasn't even still hit that era yet where he's gone from handling the ball to just be a catch and shoot guy.
Yeah.
But maybe in 5 years, they can have that team with those young guys and just still be competitive, well as just being able to compete today.
It's a passing of the mantle of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would say so.
Yeah,
100%.
Chris, what are your thoughts on the division breakdown?
Yeah, I liked all your takes, like Phoenix through Sacramento. I do agree with the Sacramento Kings. I think they do need, new ownership, new city. watching a movie last night actually did inspire me. I feel like if the Kings did pick up and move to this city, it'd be nice because then Buddy Hield would get to play for his home city, which would be Whoville. Looking at those chompers, bro.
Yeah.
But just move the Kings to Whoville.
To the swamp, bro. Move him to the swamp.
Nice.
Don't every time, so don't stop calling that man the donkey, man.
I know, bro. Like, come
Just
on.
every time he's ready, he's like,
it's gonna happen. Someone's gonna catch you and flag you and be like, "Yo, cancel this man."
You can't cancel me.
But no, like definitely I agree with like picking up and moving. Same thing with like the Lakers, just that inconsistency. It's like, again, you've got the pieces, you've got Trevor Ariza back, you've got some more depth back. It's just figure it out, man. And Westbrook and LeBron need to stop competing for who's gonna have the most turnovers tonight.
You know what the thing is, before we close it off and just talking about the Lakers, the biggest red flag for me when it comes to just watching Anthony Davis is that when LeBron was off, like when LeBron was injured or for COVID or whatever, and you've got Russell Westbrook and you've got AD, you're like, okay, like it's already supposed to be AD's team. Now LeBron's out. It's definitely AD's team. Here's the ball, AD, go. Russell Westbrook was the guy. Like when LeBron was out and it was just Russ and AD, Russ was the guy. And it's just like, okay, where are you? And this comes back to the conversation we had last week or a couple weeks ago. AD's not a number one. Very, very good number two. We talk about Scottie Pippen being, the greatest number two of all time. Clay can also talk about that, being one of the greatest number twos of all time. AD, not going to be a number one. Could go down as one of the greatest number twos of all time if he figures it out. And I'll leave it on that because Sivash looks like he has some opinions, but we'll break that down next week or the next episode. We'll do our New Year's episode. I was telling Sivash before, Chris, we'll kind of do our 2022 predictions, not so much the season, but the year. We'll do some percentages there. But that's it for this episode of the Lob It Up podcast. For those that are listening, for those that are watching, we just want to wish you a very happy, healthy, and merry Christmas. Enjoy time with your loved ones, and
Hanukkah.
Hopefully, Hanukkah and Diwali and all that stuff. But from our family to yours, we want to pass it along to you guys. So
happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays.
All right.
Peace. That's so cool.